Welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. I'm here with Jessica Daugherty to talk about her film, Over the Kitchen Table. Let's take a look at a clip.
I was getting arrested and put in jail more and more, houses getting burned down, cars literally getting bombed, getting debarred from their law practices. This was going on more and more all over the country, so eventually many of us actually left the country.
Right, you really
Because
fleeing.
we fled the country.
Yeah.
It was too dangerous for us to be here.
Wow.
I'm gonna cry now because it's just such a hard memory.
Jessica, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. So tell us the origins of this I don't even know what adjectives to put around this film. It's moving, it's inspiring, it's engaging, tell us where did this start? Where did this journey start?
Thank you so much, yeah. So Nisha Burton is the director of the film. I am the producer of the film. We're a small but mighty team. And the film focuses on Nisha's mother, Norma Burton. And in 1975, she started the first battered women's shelter ever in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And Nisha and Norma had known this history all of Nisha's life. And Nisha is an artist, multidisciplinary. She works in dream space. She works in VR and AI and the convergence of tech and our psychosocial minds. And part of that art is her filmmaking. So they knew they needed to tell this story, but it was just about the timing. And the country in the US as it is today and the world at large as it is today, it became clear that now or never is the time to tell this story, because it doesn't just happen, domestic violence doesn't just happen in the US, it's pervasive. It didn't just start happening in the 70s, it's been happening a long, long time. And in the film, Norma talks about how the movement was called Peace Begins at Home. And that's what really drew me into the project.
Can you talk about what Nisha's initial conversations might have been like with Nora after so long to get her to open up about this? I mean, and it also opened a door to maybe talk a little bit about more of her story, but it's so compelling. Can you share that?
Yes. So as a result of this time period, Norma and the advocates that she worked with endured extreme oppression, violence from the police, other powerful people in Tulsa, and to the point where she had to leave the country for several years. And so part of it is Nisha and her mom being emotionally ready to tell the story and with distance and kind of a bigger picture that they could talk about Norma's story, but also touch on the many, many other women and allies who were doing this at the same time all across the country. So it just became a time where Nisha was ready as a filmmaker with several films under her belt, and Norma was ready as a storyteller and a holder of this history and this legacy.
And what again is the time frame that we're talking about the story of Norma's work? Can you talk about that in terms of the political and social climate? Because one of the things that was so, I don't know, moving and aggravating, honestly, was the capitulation of the law enforcement and all that were against Norma's cause. I mean, it was I never was aware she had to leave the country.
So she started this shelter in Tulsa in 1975. And this was a time period when, women couldn't legally take out a mortgage loan or have a house. It was a time when it wasn't safe at night for many women on the streets. There were, if you remember, the Take Back the Night marches. Women were going out at night in huge groups and gathering to self-advocate for safer streets and just more respect. And so that's the time period that we're in. And it became clear, Norma worked in social work. She worked for children. And so she realized that not only were the children in danger, but the mothers as well. And so she then went to the police and realized they weren't tracking. There weren't reports being sent in. And so she realized that we were going to have to take it on ourselves in order to protect each other. So that was the environment that we were all in at the time. And this happened from the mid 70s into the mid 80s, the period that we're talking about here. And so I don't know exactly when she felt that she needed to leave the country, but she got death threats over the phone. Found a potato in her tailpipe of her car. Was getting arrested regularly for tail lights that maybe weren't actually out. These are tactics that you see employed against activists of all kinds from all different movements. So this is really a film about movements.
Right.
How they gain energy from grassroots movements, from that core need that's not being met around the kitchen tables. And then they get subverted, they get attacked, and they try to suppress them. And sometimes they're successful. In this case, many people were moved out of the shelters that they built, and the directors were replaced by folks who perhaps could be more manipulated or less effective in that kind of direct action, grassroots mutual aid. And so that history isn't being taught. Norma went to a convention recently, and they got up to speak the history, and they started in 1986. And they had glossed over that whole beginning foundation. And so the goal of the film is to take pride in our history, remember it, so we can do more together now.
Right, right. As you were telling this story that happened between mid-70s, mid-80s, did you notice any parallels of today? You just talked about it being about all movements. Were there things you could say, oh, this may have happened in 1978, but I can point at now? Can you identify any of the things like that?
Absolutely. There are so many movements. The Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter movement, Si Se Puede. Like, there are so many different, the missing and murdered Indigenous women's movement is a huge part of the story. And often what happens is once it gets noticed that we are effective in helping each other, there are tactics and tools that are often employed to try to shut us down. Now we're in this digital age. Digital surveillance is a big part of it, so it's a little bit different, but the same in many ways. So you got a phone tap, on a landline, you have direct access to my Instagram account right now if you want. So maybe the technology has changed a little bit, but the danger that we pose for those who would hurt us and use violence to suppress popular movements is still there.
Yeah, I could see the parallels. I definitely can see the parallels. So talk about the physical production of this film. When when Nisha started to put things on film or video, when did that start? What was that process like?
Great, yeah. It took us about a year to get here. We filmed in one day in Ashland, Oregon, and we had an incredible crew. I'm very proud of the crew that we pulled together. It was women, men, non-binary folks, allies, all coming together to tell a story. And people who volunteered, people who are, stepped up their game in terms of their cinematography work, their sound work. All of our sound department is all women. Our composer, Mel Garrison, our sound designer and mixer, Callie Day, worked very closely together to create the sonic story of the film. And we had Jasmine Vasquez did our color correction, and Deanna DeRoy is our editor. And Jason Wincoop did a lot of the motion graphics and the assistant editing.
Wow.
So that's the team. It was a nice, small but mighty team that came together to make the film.
Fantastic, fantastic. So what would you like this film to accomplish? I mean, you talked about maybe expanding it. So
Yes.
how do you see that going forward?
Well, there's so much more to the story. As we started to share it, often people respond with, my mom was part of a shelter in Alabama, and my mom in Ohio. There's a lot of deep connection with many people, and so it feels like we must tell the story for their sake, for the legacy, and we realize there's many more people to interview about their experience of starting a shelter or doing this kind of work when there weren't institutions ready to help. So we would like to make it into a feature film that will essentially map the U.S. Between this time period to identify this kind of phenomenon that happened where there is a need and people rose to meet it all together without organization. They didn't know each other. They didn't know we were doing it. It was just something that they knew they needed to do for one another.
Right.
So I'm very excited to be able to tell that history. We screened a clip at the Domestic Violence Resource Center Summit this past October. And these are women and allies that are working in Oregon to protect families. And the response there, I realized, the film is for them, to encourage and to support, and so that they can keep fighting another day.
That sounds fantastic. Fantastic. So tell us, where can we keep following you in the film and going forward?
Well, we're doing our social media thing where you can find us at Over the Kitchen Table on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
And we also have a website, and we are, fundraising for the feature.
Okay.
We will be touring the short film and community screenings, film festivals coming up in the new year. So you hopefully will be in a town near you soon.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming to talk to us.
Thank you.
It's a
I
really
appreciate it.